We talk a lot about like these, big picture strategies and company-wide changes and stuff. But honestly, like some of the most important stuff that happens in our work lives, right, is in those just like regular, like one-on-one meetings you have with your boss or your team.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Billions of those conversations are happening all over the world every single day.
Crazy.
A huge amount of them right here in the U.S. And when you add up all that time, it's an investment of over $1 billion a day in time and resources.
It really is staggering, when you think about that scale, like all that time, that potential for, growth and connection. But, the research shows a little bit of a disconnect here.
It does.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that really jumped out to me.
Yeah.
Almost half the people, on the receiving end of these one-on-ones, the team members, they feel like they're not really getting what they could be out of them.
Right.
And even more interesting, I think, is that managers often think they're doing a better job in these meetings than their team members perceive. So there's this gap, this real opportunity to make a difference here.
Which is why we're taking this deep dive today into the book, Glad We Met, The Art and Science of One-on-Ones by Stephen G. Rogelberg. So Stephen spent years, understanding really the science of what makes for an effective meeting. And that includes some really cool, studies that have followed thousands of employees across all sorts of different, industries and countries over time. What are called longitudinal studies. To really try to understand what makes a one-on-one valuable. How can we all do them better?
And that's exactly what we're here to explore for you. So our mission in this deep dive is to pull out the key findings and the practical advice from Rogelberg's research. So you can make your one-on-ones, whether you're a manager or a direct report, more impactful, more worthwhile. We're going beyond just those, kind of common sense tips. And really digging into what the evidence shows actually works.
Into the data.
Yeah, exactly. So to kick things off, why are these like regular check-ins so important in the first place?
What's the big deal?
What's the big deal?
Well, Rogelberg's research really reframes how we think about one-on-ones. He calls them leadership in action.
I like that.
And I think it's such a powerful way to put it. It emphasizes that these aren't just another, box to tick off on your to-do list as a manager. It really is how managers lead. It's how they intentionally support their team members. It's these consistent, focused interactions.
And it's important to make a clear distinction here. Because I think sometimes people confuse them. One-on-ones are not the same thing as performance appraisals.
That's such a key point to clarify. While both of them involve conversations between managers and direct reports, they serve different but complementary purposes. Rogelberg says that good one-on-ones should actually feed into the performance appraisal process. So think about it. By having regular ongoing conversations, documenting, key points and progress, providing continuous coaching and development, you build a much richer picture that makes those formal reviews fairer, less surprising, ultimately more effective.
So it's about creating this, continuous stream of communication.
That's right.
That leads to a more accurate, less stressful kind of performance review. Okay. That makes sense. But beyond just informing appraisals, what are some of the other benefits?
What are the good things that happen?
What are the good things that happen?
When you're doing these one-on-ones well, the positive ripple effects are really significant. Rogelberg's work has linked effective one-on-ones to improved employee engagement, which we know is a huge driver of productivity and retention.
Absolutely.
They also contribute directly to the success of both the team member and the manager. It's interesting. They can also foster more inclusive environment.
Interesting.
Because these regular, open conversations really help to ensure that everyone feels heard and valued. They help build stronger working relationships. They facilitate, the growth and development of direct reports. And maybe surprisingly, they can even lead to greater overall life satisfaction.
Life satisfaction. I'm curious about that. How does a work meeting end up leading to, like,
right.
greater life satisfaction?
Well, Rogelberg touches on research that consistently shows how helping others contributes to our own sense of well-being. And, one-on-ones provide this prime opportunity for managers to support their team members, to help them navigate challenges, to facilitate their growth. That act of contributing to someone else's success can lead to really significant intrinsic rewards and a greater sense of purpose and ultimately impact our overall satisfaction.
That's so interesting.
So one-on-ones, when they're done well, can really lift everyone involved.
Okay. So we understand why they matter.
Yeah.
Now let's get into, like,
Right. The nuts and bolts.
Yeah, nuts and bolts. How often should we be having these meetings?
Yeah. The million-dollar question.
Yeah. What does the research tell us?
So Rogelberg actually looked into a number of studies on this, and one cross-cultural study with nearly 4,000 employees offered some really interesting insights.
Okay.
Overall, the data pointed to a preference for 4 one-on-ones per month.
Okay.
Which basically, breaks down to weekly meetings.
So weekly seems to be kind of the general sweet spot.
Yeah. That's what the research is suggesting.
Okay.
But they also uncovered some interesting variations.
Like what?
So, for example, they found that individuals at higher organizational levels wanted more frequent one-on-ones with their managers.
Okay.
Compared to, more junior folks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. As your responsibility grows, as things get more complex, that regular touch point with your manager for guidance and, strategic alignment becomes even more critical.
Totally.
And Rogelberg emphasizes that while, these overall preferences give us a good benchmark, individual needs can vary.
Of course.
And the book even includes tools and frameworks to help managers have these open discussions with their direct reports to land on a frequency that works best for both of them.
Yeah. So again, open communication is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to finding that right rhythm.
That's right.
For each individual. Now let's think about where these meetings take place.
Okay.
Does the physical or virtual location actually matter?
Yeah. Interesting question.
I mean, a conference room is a conference room, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So Rogelberg explores how the environment where the meeting takes place can subtly but really significantly influence our emotions and even our cognitive functions.
Wow.
He cites research that looks at things like air quality.
Seriously.
Temperature.
Wow.
Noise levels.
Okay.
The size of the room.
It really matters.
The height of the ceiling.
I would have never thought about that.
And even the colors in the space.
The colors.
So, for instance, studies have shown that things like higher levels of indoor air pollution can negatively impact our thinking.
Really?
And that warmer temperatures can actually decrease our performance on tasks.
Wow. Those are some really specific details.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that they would have such a direct impact on a conversation.
They do.
Wow.
And it really highlights how much our surroundings can affect our ability to focus, our ability to process information.
Yeah.
Even, how comfortable we feel sharing openly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the preferred location for one-on-ones, Rogelberg surveyed a bunch of people.
He did. And what did he find?
He found that the manager's office and traditional conference rooms were generally seen as the most favorable.
Interesting.
The direct report's own office was actually the least preferred.
That's counterintuitive. You'd think people would feel most at ease in their own space.
Yeah.
But the data suggests otherwise.
Okay.
He also found what he calls a bimodal preference for alternative locations.
Like what?
Like coffee shops or walking meetings.
Interesting.
Roughly half the respondents liked those options, while about 30% rated them unfavorably.
Right.
So again, this really emphasizes the point of individual preferences and having that conversation with each team member to understand what works best for them.
It all comes back to communication, doesn't it?
It really does.
Okay. So now, in today's work landscape, we can't always be in the same physical location.
Yeah, that's right.
What about virtual one-on-ones? How do they stack up against meeting in person?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
This is a question we get all the time, and Rogelberg's research has some good news.
Okay.
he found that there's no significant difference in the perceived effectiveness.
Oh, interesting.
Of virtual versus in-person one-on-ones.
Okay.
Now, a slight majority still said they preferred to meet in person.
Yeah.
But the general comfort level with virtual one-on-ones was high.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Especially as many teams continue to operate remotely or in these hybrid models.
Right.
But I'm curious, were there any differences in why people might prefer one over the other?
Absolutely.
What were some of those reasons?
So those who favored in person talked about, richer nonverbal cues, less distractions, the ease of, sharing physical documents or things like that.
Right.
They also felt it was generally easier to build rapport and have those informal side conversations that can strengthen relationships.
Right.
Whereas those who preferred the virtual often talked about efficiency and convenience. Some introverted individuals said they actually felt more comfortable and able to express themselves more freely over video than when they're sitting face to face.
I get.
Rogelberg also noted that, some felt that more sensitive conversations are better handled in person.
Yeah.
And some more junior employees felt that in-person FaceTime could help their career visibility. So, while an in-person meeting might be the preferred option, virtual ones are a really viable alternative.
Yeah.
And you can even do a hybrid approach where you alternate.
Yeah.
The key takeaway is to consider, the nature of the conversation and the individual preferences of your direct report when deciding on the format.
Okay. So we've covered the who, the when, the where.
Right.
Now let's talk about the how.
Yeah.
What is an effective one-on-one?
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Let's get into it. How do we structure these conversations?
So Rogelberg breaks down an effective one-on-one into 4 key stages.
Great.
First, there's the pre-start, which is all about preparation.
Okay.
Then comes the start, which is about setting the right tone.
Okay.
Then the heart. This is where the main discussion happens. And finally, the end, which is really important for wrapping things up effectively.
Okay.
Pre-start. It's a no-brainer. You got to prepare.
Yeah. You wouldn't go into any important meeting without preparing, right?
Right.
But what about the start?
Yeah.
How do you actually set that tone?
Well, Rogelberg emphasizes the value of starting with some lighter, more personal topics before jumping into the work stuff.
Right.
So, this could be a quick check-in on how their weekend was, celebrating a recent win, maybe just expressing gratitude for their efforts. So, this helps create a more relaxed, positive atmosphere before you potentially dive into, more challenging conversation.
Right, like roadblocks.
And feedback.
Yeah, okay. So it's about easing in.
That's right.
Yeah, building that human connection before you get into the heavy stuff.
Exactly.
Tell me more about the heart.
Yeah.
Like the core of the one-on-one.
Right.
What are the key parts of that?
So this is where the real substance of the meeting unfolds.
Okay.
And Rogelberg outlines 5 key phases.
Okay.
The first is expressing.
Yeah.
This is where the direct report takes the lead and shares what's on their mind to help facilitate this.
Yeah.
He suggests using open-ended questions that encourage them to talk freely.
Right.
So one interesting technique he mentions is the traffic light system.
I like that.
Where the direct report uses, green, yellow, or red to give a quick snapshot of how things are going for them.
Okay.
Another simple but effective approach is using a 10-point rating scale.
Oh, yeah.
To get a sense of their well-being or, how they're feeling about a project.
I like those quick check-in methods.
Right.
Because it's just, it's efficient to kind of gauge the temperature of things, what comes after the expressing phase.
The second phase is clarifying and understanding.
Okay.
This is where the manager's active listening skills are critical.
So it's about
asking thoughtful questions to really make sure you grasp the direct report's perspective.
So you're not just waiting for your turn to speak.
Right.
Right. You're really trying to...
Yeah. You're not formulating your response in your head while they're still talking.
You're present.
You're present. Exactly.
You're trying to see the situation through their eyes.
Exactly.
Okay.
The third phase is solutioning.
Okay.
So this is where you start to explore potential solutions to whatever challenges have come up. And Rogelberg says it's really beneficial to ask for the direct report's ideas first.
Okay.
He even suggests that if their solution is viable, go with it.
Oh, interesting.
Even if you have a slightly different approach in mind.
Even if it's not exactly what you would have done.
That's right. Because this demonstrates trust in their judgment and gives them a sense of ownership.
Right. It's empowering.
It is.
Right.
The fourth phase is crafting next steps.
Okay.
This is all about making sure that any decision or agreed upon actions are crystal clear and actionable.
Right.
Rogelberg says make them smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Time-bound. So no vague commitment.
No vague commitment.
No open-ended tasks.
Yep.
Clear ownership and deadlines.
I like it.
And then the final phase within the heart is monitoring the agenda.
Okay.
So while it's important to have some structure, the one-on-one should be driven by the direct report's needs.
Right.
You need to be flexible. And adjust based on what's most pressing. However, as the manager, you also have a responsibility to make sure that important topics that you need to cover don't get pushed aside.
So there's this balance.
There is a balance.
Between having a plan, but also being responsive.
That's right.
And making sure that important stuff gets addressed.
Yeah.
Rogelberg also talks about different approaches to creating the agenda.
He does.
For the one-on-one.
Yeah.
What are those?
So he outlines two main approaches.
Okay.
The first is the listing approach.
Okay.
Where both the manager and the direct report create lists of topics they want to discuss. Okay.
And then at the beginning of the meeting, they agree on the final agenda.
So you're kind of getting the administrative overhead out of the way beforehand.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. What's the second approach?
The second is the core question approach.
Okay.
So in this model, the manager provides a set of broad, open-ended questions that really represent, the core areas that the agenda will cover.
Okay.
The direct report then comes prepared to answer those questions in whatever way is relevant.
Okay.
Now, if you're using this approach, it's important to give those questions in advance.
Right. So the direct report isn't caught off guard.
Right, exactly.
And they have time to think.
They can prepare.
Yeah.
So, Rogelberg gives examples of these core questions, often revolving around well-being, priorities, roadblocks, development goals.
Yeah.
And then, after the direct reports address those questions, the manager can bring up anything else that they need. So, again, making sure to prioritize the direct report's needs.
So, again, both of these approaches really seem to put the direct report in the driver's seat.
They do.
Yeah.
Which really, aligns with the understanding that this time is for them.
Right. For their benefit.
That's right.
For their development. Rogelberg also brings up this caution.
He does.
About what he calls the status update trap.
Yeah.
What is that?
So this is when, one-on-one meetings unintentionally turn into just a list of, tasks completed, tasks in progress.
Yeah, it's checking boxes.
Right.
Yeah.
And you completely miss out on the more strategic stuff.
Yeah, like career development.
Skill growth.
Well-being. I can see how easy it would be to fall into that.
It's so easy.
When you're busy.
Yeah.
Focused on deliverables.
Right.
So how do you avoid that trap?
Well, Rogelberg suggests a few things.
Okay.
One is to intentionally dedicate specific meetings or blocks of time within meetings to those broader, more strategic conversations.
Okay.
Another is to consistently use that core question approach. So you're prompting more reflective discussions that go beyond just task updates.
Right.
And as a manager, you have to consciously steer the conversation away from the tactical towards the bigger picture.
Yeah.
He even talks about, like dedicated meeting or dedicated minutes where, certain meetings or certain times are specifically for, that strategic thinking.
That makes sense. What about tracking metrics in these one-on-ones? Is that a helpful thing to do?
So the research found that just tracking metrics wasn't really strongly correlated.
Interesting.
With, positive perceptions
of the meeting.
meetings.
Oh, okay.
So while about 40% of people felt it was valuable, because what gets measured gets done.
Right.
A majority felt that it could make meetings feel too transactional and less human.
Right.
So Rogelberg says, if metrics are a natural part of the job, like in sales, then reviewing them briefly in, some one-on-ones can make sense. But the key is to go beyond the numbers, to understand the why behind them, and really focus on, how to achieve success and overcome barriers. And he reminds us that, feedback should acknowledge effort and progress, not just result, because external factors play a huge role.
Yeah, of course.
And ultimately, your job as a manager is to help people succeed, not just monitor their outcome.
Right, to support them.
To support them, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about starting the heart of the one-on-one. What about the end?
Right.
How do you wrap these conversations up effectively?
So Rogelberg emphasizes that the end of the one-on-one is a critical opportunity to really solidify key takeaways and ensure accountability, In addition to ending on a positive note and expressing gratitude, that last agenda item should be, a concise recap of next steps for both people.
Both the manager and
the manager and the direct report. So, expectations for action items.